Good evening, welcome to the Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts. Hope you're well and good. It is Arena Tuesday. We're going to be maging, so as always, you guys vote on Twitter at FailCraft Casts, and over the course of a Tuesday, you pick the choice of arena hero you fancy, and it was unanimously Jaina Proudmoore Mage style today. So, as our first three cards pop up, I'm going to quickly summarise how we do this. We're going to quickly rattle through picking a deck. I'm going to run through the cards as we go. People are picking live on stream at twitch.tv/FailCraftCast. What do we do when we pick an arena deck? Well, firstly, it's entirely up to you. You can pick nice or nasty. The overall majority vote wins. So I drop a pen. And if there is a draw, then I get a streamer's choice as to what it's going to be. There we go. So what are the three rules we follow, whether we're making a nice or a nasty deck? We always review often, number one. So we will look at 10, 20 and 25 cards, for example. So that means that we can review our cards often and we can try and tweak our picks. We can see if a strategy is forming. So that's our rule number one. Rule number two, we take a look at mana curve over there in the middle and spells against minions. The reason for that, again, if we have loads of early game cards, maybe with reviewing the deck often, we can grab perhaps more rush decky cards. If we've got lots of mid-game cards, maybe we're going to try and pick more a mid-game focused deck. If we've got loads of late-game cards, we might be in trouble, but we might want to try and pick more early-game cards that get us there, keep us alive until we can pick those late-game cards. So, spells against minions, are we throwing a lot of spells? Do we need more minions? Just gives you a nice bunch of choices. Last but not least, we run through each turn as it comes mana-wise to see what we can grab. And how the deck will roughly play, very important as well. So with those three, we'll get a deck going. So first choice, we have the choice of Illuminator, Wild, Pyromancer or Knife Juggler. Illuminator, if you control a secret at the end of your turn, restore 4 health to your hero. We're a mage, we can pick secrets. The Illuminator, if we can protect it, will heal us a whole bunch. And for 2 attack, 4 health, not awful. Wild Pyromancer, after you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to all. A very nice way of removing rush. 2/3/2, very solid stats. Could be good. We're a mage and we have lots of spells to throw. Last but not least, a Knife Juggler. After you summon a minion, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. So nice if we can throw down lots of little minions against him. And let's get into chat, see what people are fancying. It looks like Juggler. Juggler wins out. Very, very nicely indeed. So let's grab some Juggler. You guys going for some chip damage. Next we've got a Nerubal Weblord, a Frost Wolf Grunt, or a Shield Bearer. Right, Nerubal Weblord. Minions with Battlecry cost 2 more. Good at slowing down some Battlecry minions, however, also slows down your own. So, not so fabulous that. The Frostwolf Grunt, well, nothing bad about this card. It's a 2/2/2 straight up with Taunt. And then the Shield Bearer, a cheap early game taunt, but with no attacking ability. So it looks like everyone fancies a bit of Frostwolf. Remember, in Arena, if in doubt, grab something solid. If it's got solid stats, if it's going to have some kind of use, if it's going to be smoothing out your mana curve so you can be playing something every go, Frostwolf is a good pick. Next we have Wisp, Frostbolt, or a Force Tank Max. Not much to be said about Wisp, one of the heroes or heroines or whatever a Wisp is of the stream. For a 0 mana 1/1, you can throw it down, it may do something. Frostbolt, a brilliant basic mage card, 3 damage to a character and freeze. Use it to pick off minions, freeze weapons bearing heroes, damage to the face of heroes, all kinds of goodness. Last but not least, Force Tank Max, new at Goblins vs Gnomes. This is just one of those big chunky minions. Perhaps a little bit better in terms of being a big chunky late game minion because it's got that Divine Shield, so it should stay alive for a go unless there's some kind of polymorph, hex or similar to crowd control it. What are people going for? Quick pick before the Wisp fans get here. That looks like a Frostbolt to me. Winning out there nicely. Nice, we are off and running very, very fast. Good stuff. Mirror Entity, or a Thrall Marfarseer. A nice 3 pick there. Wind Fury Harpy number 1. 6 mana for a 4 attack, 5 health. However, you are going to get the benefit of Wind Fury. That's 8 damage if it stays alive for a turn after the summoning sickness. Mirror Entity, when your opponent plays a minion, summon a copy. Generally just awesome. Great and constructed. And of course, if you can drop this when your opponent's going to be throwing out big nasty minions, if you drop it in the mid to mid-late game, who knows what you could be copying, so never a bad secret to have. Last but not least, Thrall Marfarseer, a budget version of Wind Fury Harpy. You can pretty much see that reflected in stats. Wind Fury Harpy, maybe a little weaker. It's not a 4/6, it's compared to that 2/3. Mirror Entity, universally getting the pick. Next we've got a Clockwork Gnome, and apologies for the typing if you're on YouTube. We need to make sure we're picking fast. Clockwork Gnome, Elven Arch, or Stormpike Commando. Clockwork Gnome, throw it down, get a spare part. Spare parts being the 1 mana Goblins versus Gnomes have small minor buff spells, but some of them are like freeze a minion, return a minion to your hand. Nothing wrong with a spare part. Elven Archer, a 1/1/1 with a battle cry of 1, could remove a little minion, burst a divine shield, little bits of useful things. Last but not least, the Stormpike Commando, a battle cry of 2, now expensive for that 5 mana, but with 4 attack and 2 health, maybe it'll stay alive to do some damage, maybe it won't. That's a bit of a tough 3 pick there. People seem to be fancying Commando, the Stormpike Commando, a few Gnome fans in there. Looks as though Stormpike Commando wins out just by the 1 vote. So not certain between those 3. Really, in terms of a strong pick, I think they were all much of a muchness there. An Archmage, a Frostbolt, or a Goldshire Footman. Goldshire Footman, compare him to the Shield Bearer. For 1 mana you get 1 attack and 2 health. For Shield Bearer is 1 mana for 0 attack and 4 health. Generally you like that early game war. So let's take a little butchers. Archmage, a very solid card actually. 6 mana, you do get the spell damage of +1, but 4 attack, 7 health. That's kind of a solid card in that it will make some trades, it will stick to the table before anything else. So, Frostbolt, deal 3 damage to a character and freeze. We've got 1, do you want 2? Always good. And last but not least, the Goldshire Footman, as we said, it's kind of a fairly average tank. I see a Frost, I see, double bolts, okay, nice little vote there, ready for action, totally a vote for a Goldshire Footman there. Whoops, Frostbolts, I think that's a Frostbolt we're going to be going for. Next, Mind Control Tech, an Ancient Mage, or a Soot Spewer. 3 interesting cards. The Mind Control Tech, in Arena, people generally have more minions on the board, because it's harder to directly remove, I would probably say. So that's not bad. Engaging TC-130 Mind Control device. So Mind Control Tech not so awful. The Ancient Mage, adjacent spell minions of minion spell damage of +1, again pretty solid. And with 2 attack, 5 health again, I don't mind that too much, because if in doubt, if you didn't have anything else you wanted to grab, 2 attack, 5 health, that'll do some trades. And then the Soot Spear, 3/3 spell damage of +1, new Goblins versus Gnomes, pretty solid. What have we got? We've got TC-130, Mind Control Soot. We need a deciding vote there. And as we're slowly rocking towards the 10 mark. Soot, considering all of the spells we are getting. Soot Spear grabs the vote. Next we've got a Darkscale Healer, Bloodcell Raider, or a Clockwork Gnome. We've covered the Clockwork Gnome. Darkscale Healer, throw it down, heals all friendly characters by 2 for attack, 5 health. Will do some trading of minions. Not awful at all. Bloodcell Raider gains attack if you have a weapon with attack. We don't have weapons, but 2/2/3, not terrible. And then the Clockwork Gnome as well, a little bit of early game pressurage, if you may fancy. So as I go and find the regulars list and make sure that people aren't going to be getting booted. We don't want regulars booted for using all caps. Everyone needs to use all caps at some point in their lives. I need to donate to get more regulars on Nightbot. Interesting. So Healer Gnome, Healer would go Gnome, but have 4 cards to be played early as it is. Interesting. True, but Gnomes. A very powerful and persuasive argument there from Tomodachi. Because Gnomes. A similar argument to because Wisps. So we're pretty much split there. Could do with a little deciding vote, and in comes the deciding vote of Gnomes. So a Gnome it is. Next, oh my goodness, it's as if Hearthstone wants to today. The RNG lords and ladies are wanting us to be picking Gnomes all day and all night, so you know what a Gnome is, we just picked one. Frost Nova, freeze all enemy minions, can certainly be used to slow down the opponent in combination with Ice Lance, which does 4 damage to a frozen minion. Can really slow people down too, so not awful, but no damage in this format of course. And then Acolyte of Pain, whenever it takes damage, draw a card. Remember, you can ping this for 1 damage with your Mage Hero spell. So Acolyte is better value the more times it's hit. meaning that you draw more cards up to a maximum of 3 unless you can buff health. So we can get more value from Acolyte by pinging it with our own mage spell if we want. Card draw in card games is traditionally very good. Pain, pain, pain. Looks like a pain. Next we've got a Bloodsail, Corsair, an Angry Chicken, or an Argent Commander. And as this will be our 10th pick, I'm going to do a quick deck review after this while you folks pick the next card. Bloodsail Corsair, remove a durability. Not awful, not amazing. Unless you're playing a very weapons heavy kind of environment. And you can't tell that in Arena, of course. Angry Chicken, enrage for +5, but it's only going to be able to enrage if you can buff its health. And then the Argent Commander, he used to be 4-3 back in the day, I believe. 4-2, 6 mana, throw it down, charges in, does damage. Most awesome. Looks like a universal vote for Argent. Right, I will review these 3 cards and then let folks in the chat pick while I do our quick first deck review, because we've got the 10 card. So Spectral Knight, big fairy dragon, 4 attack, 6 health, can't be targeted by anything apart from weapons and smashes to the face by minions. Overall big, solid mid-game card. Draw a card and die with Novice Engineer. Ship's Cannon, pretty much good if you have pirates, and we have none. So we've got 10 cards. Let's do our 3-point deck review to make sure we're on track, or to get an idea of where we're going. Number 1, review roguely, we are doing that. Number 2, let's take a look at that mana curve. Well, we've got a few little bits sprinkled in the early game, and then a bit in the mid game, nothing hugely late game. Can't really tell a huge amount yet, but at the moment we're looking like an early to mid game deck, and generally a strong arena deck will be able to put down threats every single turn. Finally, we'll take a look at spells against minions and then also run through it turn by turn. Well, we've got 2 Frostbolts there, a Mirror Entity as well will count as a spell. 7 minions to 3 spells, so it's not hugely spell heavy. Turn by turn, Gnome, 2 Frostbolts for early game removal or zapping at any point in the game. A tank, we can throw down more minions. Remember, we've got a Knife Juggler, so more cheap minions aren't a bad thing. Mirror Entity to be dropped at any point in the game where we want to get nasty minions off our opponent. Acolyte of Pain for card draw. Shoot Spear will give additional damage and make our Frostbolts 2 mana for 4 damage. Very, very nice indeed. Stormpipe Commando for a little bit of chip and tactical removal, and then an Argent Commander for just overall solid mid-game trading or late game. So can't really tell too much about our deck at the moment, but we know as always we have a solid core. So next review point to 20. Back to the choice that is looking like Spectral Knight all over. A Bloodsail Raider, a Snow Chugger, or a Mech Warper. Not such an easy choice, and people before this draft started were wanting to go Mech-mage. It looks as though you're getting your choice. Bloodsail Raider, attack we've already covered. Chugger, 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 chugger. The Snow Chugger is just being thrown down, everyone typing chugger multiple times on Twitch chat. Snow Chugger is just evil. It freezes your opponent. If your opponent is a weapon-based hero, it really stops them in their tracks. And then freezes any characters in general. Mech Warper, brilliant. We do have a Mech or 2. But Mech Warper, generally you'd rather have the mechs and then drop the warpers, I think, and afterwards you can get some really nice early game. Chugger, 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 chugger. That looks like a Snow Chugger though. You can't go too far wrong with a Snow Chugger. And another interesting 3-pick here. The Arena Gods giving us some very interesting choices. With an Ogre Brute, Arcane Missiles, or a Burly Rockjaw Trog. We've got to do Arcane Missiles first. Throw it down, does 3. RNG, great early game value, good of course with a Mana Worm or similar. However, you've got an interesting pick there. The Ogre Brute is a really strong pick, particularly in Arena. 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy, yes, but for a 3 mana, turn 3 or turn 2 drop if you have the coin, with 4 attack and 4 health, it will at worst clear a bit of the board for you. At best, you can really hit your opponent in the face with it. So, even though the flavor text sounds a bit dodgy, as an early game pressure drop, it's really good. Also, the Burly Rockjaw Trog, whenever your opponent casts a spell, gain +2. That could get real nasty real fast. And again, for a 4 mana drop with that 5 health, it will stick to the table for a few turns. If you can get it out early, it may slow your opponent down, or may let you make some big damage to the opponent's face, or make some big plays. So we've got Trogor. I'm mixing up Ogre and Trog into Trogor. I like all of them. Ogre, Trog, Arcane. That's looking like an Ogre, unless anyone else jumps in with a little bit of a voted. So, anyone else fancy some more? A big welcome to those of you joining us live. Want to sign into Twitch and come say hello. Come get involved in the voting. That looks like an Ogre to me. Next, a Razor Fen Hunter, Frostbolt, or a young Dragon Hawk. Well, we've already covered a Frostbolt. Young Dragonhawk, throw it down. Wind Fury may hit twice if it does not die before then. Frostbolt, covered. Razorfin Hunter, a twofer. You can get a nice 2-for-1 there. And the 1/1 ball may not do huge amounts. 2 attack, 3 health for the Razorfin Hunter will certainly let you trade a minion or 2, might help against rushes. An option for use. So much Bolt. Bolt, Bolt, Bolt. Next up we have a Priestess of Elune, a Tauren Warrior, or an Annoy-o-Tron. Priestess of Elune. Throw it down, 5 attack, 4 health, may make some trades. A battle cry of restoring 4. Generally health is never such a bad thing. Then that minion passes the solid test. It will be reasonably good in most situations. Tauren Warrior. Taunting Rage +3. 2/3 becomes 5/2. It can do a bit of warning, so not overly bad either. And then the Annoy-o-Tron. Really annoying in the early game, as its name may suggest, with Taunt and Divine Shield. That is going to be pressuring and certainly slowing the opponent down in the early game. And bear in mind that we actually have 1, 2, 3 mechs at the moment. It's not huge amounts of mechs, but if we pick more mechs and then see a mech warper, we could start having a Mech-mage in Arena, which would be crazy. That's looking like a pretty much split down the line pick in chat between all 3. So I get a streamer's choice. And I think as my streamer's choice, I see some people have gone for Priestess to even out the curve somewhat. I get that, that's going to be a bit of late game pressure. We have lots of annoying early gameness so far. I'm going to go for the Annoy-o-Tron, but I always seem to see, maybe it's just me, I always seem to see late game cards like that coming up again and again, so I'm going to take a risk that we'll get a healing card again later. Bloodfen Raptor, Harvest Golem or Murloc Tidehunter. The Raptor is just an overall solid 2/3/2, nothing wrong with that. Harvest Golem, one of the greatest 2-for-1s in the game. Summoning that 2/1 damage golem is great early game pressure again. And the Murloc Tidehunter is equally good early game pressure. Don't forget, of course, summoning another something will trigger the Knife Juggler, but everyone's gone for the Golem because it's a 2-for-1, as they should. Spider Tank, a Boulder Fist Ogre, or a Cogmaster. Spider Tank 3/3/4, brilliant if you get a Mech Warper. If we pick the Spider Tank, we should really think about picking a Mech Warper if one shows up in our final 15 cards. Boulder Fist, that would flesh out our later mana curve, but 6/6/7, it's a fairly solid swinging machine. And then a Cogmaster, 2 attack while we have a mech. We have plenty of mechs. We do also have some early game options. So, which of those 3 do you fancy? Are we going to really push a mech theme? We're going to even out our mana curve maybe a little bit with that Boulder Fist Ogre? Or perhaps go for a lot more early game pressure, even more so than the Spider Tank with the Cogmaster? A decision for you. 16 cards out of 30. We are marching on towards our 20 card second deck review point, so I'll do a little deck review there. I want the Cogmaster, but I need Ogre for the late game. That looks like an Ogre vote to me. So next we've got a Tinkertown Technician. Oh, we're getting some really nice picks. And so many of the picks we're actually seeing this evening fulfill the solid card test. Like, if in doubt, if you see them and there's nothing else that looks good, you should just grab them. We're just being very fortunate we're getting a lot of them at the same time. So Tinkertown Tech is great if we get an early game mech down. We will turn 3, have a 4/4 with an additional spare part. Very strong indeed, and we do have a couple of early game mechs. Could be good. Shieldmaster, just an overall nasty, solid turn 4 tanky beast, who is most awesome. Then the Bloodscale Raider, Bloodsail, who seems to be popping up an awful lot in this draft. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with this engine, we've got no 4-drops. So the Bloodsail Raider is probably not the pick, just because we're not really weapon focused. And the Tinkertown Tech goes well with our mechs. It looks like a tech vote, so we've got a tech. The Shieldmaster there would have also been a very, very good pick. Ooh, it's a 3 pick here of mage cards. And that is a tough decision. Although they're all basics, they're all pretty good. Mirror Image, 2/0/2 minions with Taunt. Don't forget that will give us 2 chip damage after a Knife Juggler. Flame Strike will let us clear the board in the late game. So many times in an arena that can come in handy. And then Polymorph equally so, because you can then just take out one opponent. Big threat. Tank in your way, no problem. Looking though that people quite fancy the Area of Effect AoE Clear of Flame Strike, doing that 4 damage to all enemy minions. Flame Strike, Skill Strike, Flame Strike. I think that unless we have a few more votes coming in and stealing it away from the Flame Strike voters, then Flame Strike is going to be our choice. And I would be happy pretty much with any of those 3. Oh, and very nice indeed. And I've got a thought on what I might go for this one, but I'm not going to harp on about it and influence what you guys might be thinking. So, Enhance Meccano. Throw it down, and that battle cry gives your other minions Wind Fury, Taunt, or Divine Shield. Remember that you can give a taunted minion taunt, so it may or may not benefit certain minions depending on what you have on the table, but has shown some use in Zoo and various rushes. The Mountain Giant, great in Arena, you'll probably have more cards in your hand, so not a bad pick. And Molten Giant, you're always going to lose health at some point unless everything's going swimmingly. So again, another solidish card. Mage Giants was a thing back in the early days of Hearthstone. There's no reason it can't be again. Unless, of course, it was stronger when freeze was you could freeze earlier in the game. And that looks like an interesting pick of everyone going for Enhance. So now with this deck, given that you've gone with that, and I've actually picked that now for us, I would have gone with that as well, because I think that we've got a nice sort of set of early to mid-game minions, but we're going to review that because we're now at 20 cards, so I will summarise these cards and then we'll do our 20 card deck review. Ice Barrier, great for just putting on some armour, health is always good. Flame Strike, well, we've got one Do You Want To, brilliant for strafing the board if we really need. And then the Piloted Shredder. Now we're low on 4 drops, this balances our curve out quite nicely. And then summoning that random 2 cost, it's an excellent 2 for the price of 1. You can do some nice trading to control the table. And very interesting. Everyone has gone for Flame Strike. So I'm going to pick that, let everyone look at the next cards, and then I'm going to do our deck review. Rule number 1, so we're at 20 cards, review often we are. Number 2, let's take a look at the mana curves and spells against minions. It now looks as though we're very early game focused, we're lacking a bit in mid game, and then we've got a balance into the late game, so we need to take control of the game in the early game at this point in time and do as much damage or keep the board under control at least as we can. Spells against minions, now 3 Frost Bolts, 1 Mirror Entity brings us up to 4. And 2 Flame Strikes in the late game bring us up to 6. So our spells are primarily control. 2 Flame Strike is very heavy late game control. How do we do our run through? Well, turn by turn. Name goes down early game. Frostbolts can be played whenever for damage or control. Annoyatron and Grunt, 2 early game tanks now. That'll keep us nice and solid in the early game. Knife Juggler, Snow Chugger will help us do damage and do chip. A Mirror Entity can hit the table at any point. We'll probably drop it mid-game to try and get big nasty minions off our opponent. Acolyte Pain for card draw, trades with the Harvest Golem, trades and table control with the Ogre Brute. So although we have a lot of early game cards in that mana curve, they're actually all really nice and strong, and if we get a good draw, we should be able to keep a nice bit of control on the deck. Enhance Meccano. Now if we have control of the table, Tinkertown Tech with Mech stand will give us a 4-4 in the early game. We can always mulligan for Mech, or if we have that and a Mech in our hand early game, we've got a really nice start. It's exactly like Mech-mage and constructed. So Enhance Meccano, if we have table control at any point with lots of minions, this should win us the game. In Zoos it makes that kind of difference. If you have loads of taunts your opponent can't get through, Divine Shield to make it harder for your opponent to control the table. A really good pick. And then lastly, the Spectral Knight. Stormpike Commando Knight will help us in the mid-game control, so will Argent Commander Boulderfist Ogre, and then 2 Flame Strikes. So, to summarise, at our second deck review point, we need to make sure, I think, we either draft some more mid-game minions. We can grab control of the table in the early game with this early game card set, but I think that we're lacking a little bit of mid to mid-late game punch, maybe some tanks. I'm not too worried about us grabbing control of the table in the early game, but it's what we then do once we've got that control. Do we have enough damage or control to see it through? I mean, by the time we get to Flame Strike, we could have lost the game already in Arena. So let's bear that in mind for our last 9 cards. Back to this 3-pick, Secret Keeper, a Gnomish Experimenter, or Wailing Skull. In chat, Thrash says, I'd rather just have 29 cards. Well, I'd rather have 30 cards, but I see your pain. Secret Keeper, well, whenever a secret is played, gain 1/1. We have 1 secret. I guess it's early mana. Gnomish Experimenter, this is terrible. Transforms you into a chicken. I can't remember the stats of that chicken. It's different to the Angry Chicken, but it's still not ideal. Welling Soul silences our other minions. Now we have some death rattles, we have taunts, all kinds of things, so a risky card, the Wailing Soul. Let's have a look what people have gone for. Wailing Soul, Secret Keeper, people generally play a Wailing Soul onto an empty board. I get that logic, it's looking like a Secret Keeper. Chickens are 1 mana, 1/1. Secret Keeper it is then by a narrow vote. Next, a Piloted Shredder. Ooh, here's a nice 3-pick. A Thralmar Farseer or an Annoy-Otron. We actually covered all 3 of these cards, so let's take a look at the mana curve while people in the chat make their choice. I think it's a fairly obvious pick here. Take a look at the mana we have, take a look at what we just said when we wanted to make that pick, and everyone's gone for Shredder. Loving it, that fulfills what we were just saying with our deck review point. We really wanted some more mid-game punch, we wanted some control, some damage, and similar. Lost Tall Strider, Ice Barrier, Bloodfen Raptor. We've covered the Raptor, we've covered the Ice Barrier. Lost Tall Strider, a 4/5/4. That's not at all bad for a little bit of mid-game pressure. That fulfills solid minion. If there's nothing else you'd want to pick in a 3-pick, I wouldn't mind grabbing a Tall Strider. Ice Barrier though, pretty much a guaranteed unless your opponent can remove secrets, 8 armor. Put an 8 additional health on yourself. If you're not healing yourself up, then that's very, very nice. Some people saying Barrier, other people saying Strider also for the curve. Looking as though we need a deciding vote. And a big welcome to Flobbit and Tilly. Great to have you with us. So we are now into Tall Strider, Barrier or Raptor. Ice, ooh, in comes an Ice, and joining the stream and making a decisive choice there. Any more for any more? I think that's going to be an Ice Barrier. We are nicely on track to get, I think, a couple of games in, maybe 3. Let's see how we go. That is an Ice Barrier. Next, we have a Mirror Image, a Dancing Swords, or a Haunted Creeper. We've covered the Mirror Image. Dancing Swords for 3 mana, lovely early game stats, but your opponent will go all out for that, not only to get the threat off the table, but also to draw the card. So, very, very nice. Haunted Creeper, well, you can thread in the early game, it goes well with a Knife Juggler. When it dies, it will summon 2 minions that will, in those Spectral Spiders, trigger a Knife Juggler as well. Good for trades. Looks like lots of people fancying a bit of creep, rather than the tanks of the Mirror Image. Creeper, 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 creeper. I think that's a creeper, unless there's a big swing one way or another. Looks like a creeper to me. 25 out of 30. Nice one, folks. We're almost there. And instead of getting everyone before this video, before this stream started, we're calling for unstable portals. We've not seen a single one, but we have seen a lot of mirror entities. Grunt we've covered, we've got 1 do you want to. Mirror entity we've covered, we've got 1 do you want to. And then I've managed to spell Gurubashi with an extra E. It looks kind of works. So many cheap cards. Berserker, entity number 2. Mirror, okay, Berserker. 2 for Berserker, 2 for Mirror. And a few more. We need some kind of deciding vote between all of those. We need a decider. Ooh, Gurubashi, I see Berserker, Ooh, yep, it's a Guru. Oh, and a Mirror. Oh, it's a direct split between everyone. It's going to be a streamer's choice. Right, so let's take a look. So many cheap cards. Gurubashi. Don't forget with the Gurubashi, we can, it evens out our curve, we can damage it. I'm going to go with the Gurubashi. I would have loved another Mirror Entity, because they're just nice in general. But I think between the random luck factor of the Mirror Entity and the assured tanky nasty threat of the Gurubashi, we can always zap the Gurubashi with our hero power as well. Frostbolt, Narubar Weblord, or Direwolf Alpha. Frostbolt madness. Well, we've covered 2 of those. I'll cover the Direwolf. Winter is coming with the Direwolf, and I think the flavor text for Direwolf Alpha says, to be in a chance with a Direwolf beta key, just retweet this message. Some great stuff. Everyone going for a Frostbolt. 4 Frostbolts. I really hope we can find a little bit of spell damage as well with a Lost Tall Strider, a Direwolf Alpha, or a Stormwind Champion. covered 2 of those. The Stormwind Champion is number 3. Your other minions have 1/1 in his 7 mana. We've kind of got a reasonable curve here. That could be a killer finisher for us in the late game, if we can stay alive till turn 7. Lots of caps flying around. The might of Stormwinds. Freeze Maze is real, says Lud in chat, and I totally understand that feeling. Looks like a Stormwind Champion. Lovely stuff. Next. Oh my goodness, we've got another Frostbolt. A piloted Shredder. That's the 3rd Shredder we've seen in this draft. It looks like this draft is really trying to tell us something. So Frostbolt, piloted Shredder, or Worgen Infiltrator. 5 Frostbolts. That would be hilarious. I think that would just be so funny. But I think the logical pick would cover the Worgen Infiltrator while people vote. 1/2/1 stealth. It can be around. It can then do something. Can then probably die. But I think it's going to be a Frostbolt. Just imagine 5 bolts. Shredder, Frostbolt. We've got Frostbolts aren't quite portals, but they'll do. They've got the comedy factor. I think that looks like a Shredder vote. Just imagine 5 bolts. I vote Shredder. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was very, very tempted for. Ooh, okay, we've got a Molten Giant, a wee Spell Stopper, or a Doomsayer. That's an interesting 3-pick. We've already covered the Molten Giant, so I'm not going to jump into that. Imagine waiting till turn 10 and firing 5 Frostbolts in their face. That would be hilarious. The wee Spell Stopper. Now this is a mage card with goblins versus gnomes. Adjacent minions can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. Sounds a little bit off, but if you take a look at that, 2 attack, 5 health, that will stay on the table for a while. And it gives you the equivalent of more Fairy Dragons or Spectral Knights. And unless your opponents move this card, you can put it next to some tanks or some similar cards and make your big minions that you get out, if any, really sticky. They'll be hard to get off the table. Beg pardon, last but not least, we have the Doomsayer. We can throw that down to destroy all minions. Good clearance. So if we can get that down, good against Rush. Molten Spellstopper, wee Spellstopper. I'd go Molten, not sure how good Spellstopper is. Very good point, Black Cat. So that looks like a pretty split vote. We need some kind of decision fix. 2 cards to go. And a big welcome to Faradin joining us. Good to see you. So, not sure on this pick. It's not the easiest one. Well, while you folks have a little look, let's take a quick final deck review so we can get straight in, because we've only got 1 more card to play. So, we've reviewed often. You can see from our mana curve we've got a huge early game presence, and then it is pretty even. You guys have evened out the mana curve over the next few turns. So at least we've got some follow-up to our early game madness. What are we doing with spells? What are we doing with minions? Well, we've got 4 Frostbolts for Frostbolt Insanity. That's going to be hilarious. Can't wait. Ice Baron Entity for some good secretage to follow up. Let's go up to 6. And then with 2 Flame Strikes in the late game, if I scroll down, then we've got nice late game control. So and then let's take a look at minions and spells and go through 10 by 10 by 10 by turn. We are going to be Clockwork Gnoming. We can throw down those little minions. We can control a Noyatron Grunt, will give us some tanking. We can Knife Juggler into our smaller minions for some chip damage. Nice secrets to throw down turn 3, or indeed whenever is most appropriate. Card draw with Acolyte. Harvest Golem for trades. Ogre Brute for trading. Soot Spewer to buff those Frostbolts at any point. With Tinkertown Tech and all of the mechs we have, and Enhanced Meccano could win us the game turn 4 or 5 if we filled the board with minions. 2 Shredders to follow up. That's a really nice pick by you guys. I really like having those in turn 4. Great in Arena, great in Constructed. Gobashi follows up with some damage. Spectral Knight, Commando for some more damage, and then with the Ogre, Flame Strikes to control, and a Stormwind, we're looking to finish in the late game with those. So looking nice indeed. Let's jump back in. I see Molten Giant, Spell Stopper, maybe Molten, and that looks like a Molten. So we've got a vote for the late game. We're ready to roll. So, deck review done. I think our tactic is to throw down loads of cards in the early game that you folks have picked. Lots of cards in the early game, throw them down, control with our spells if we need, damage if we need, loads of little minions. I think we mulligan for a nice early game hand. Well, we've got a Frostbolt. I'm going to keep that Frostbolt. Could mulligan for more. I'm going to throw back those two and let's grab some early game cards. And with the Ogre Brute and with the Gurubashi Berserker, well, we have some real nice options there. Looking happy with that. That's going to be good. So we don't know what this priest has, but I think really our curve at the moment, no real need to throw that Frostbolt unless there's something we want to remove. If there was perhaps a Northshire Cleric or something similar. We'll see what we go for. Okay, do I want a Frostbolt at this stage? I'm not going to Frostbolt because we can use that to freeze, we can use that to one-shot remove something, so I'm just going to do a little bit of chip. And with the 2 mana, let's see if we can... Our priest is going to be doing anything? Nope, so that puts us in a nice position. Also with the Ogre Brute, a consideration for constructing an arena, and I'm just thinking this because we're in the priest matchup. It's got 4 attack, so it sits very nicely between the Shadow-Wed Pain of a priest, remove a minion with 3 attack or less, or the Shadow-Wed Death, remove a minion with 5 attack or more. And a Death Lord goes down. Okay, so can we burst that off the table in 1? Probably not in 1, but with a Knife Juggler and then Frostbolting, we've certainly got some nice trade options we could go for. The Soot Spewer, that would allow us to potentially burst this off next turn. Spell damage of +4, of course. Or I can swing and see what happens with the Deathlord to start with. I think I'm going to go for a swing to start with. Now, oh, he attacked the wrong enemy, but he still attacked the hero. That shows how awesome the Ogre Brute is. So, options, Knife Juggler, we couldn't throw another minion down. Actually, do you know what, for the trade, I'm just going to go for the Shredder. Again, another 4 attack minion. Really, really nice. So we're going to be a real solid position here. Very much liking this. Now the Deathlord, of course, I love Deathlords. Comments in the chat. Hammy's favourite Deathlord. I love Deathlords when my opponent has them. If I have them, I'm not so happy. The Deathlord is so bad the Ogre won't go near it. If I was the Ogre, I'd just swing away at that for fun. Right, so Soot Spear into a Frostbolt. That will do 4 damage. We can make a trade. I think out of these, given that this has got less damage, I'm quite happy to actually just remove that. Oh, and another piloted Shredder. Look at the sheer table pressure we can get on the table. I'm just going to get a piloted Shredder down. There's nothing bad about that at all. However, of course, I've got a chance of... Oh! I've attacked the wrong opponent twice. And the wrong opponent twice has been the hero. I love this Ogre. Play with Ogre cards. Oh, Dango's a questing adventurer. Remember, of course, that when spells are thrown after that, it's going to get big and nasty real fast. So we're going to keep an eye. In comes a silence. I would imagine we'll see a silence on one of these two. That's going to get removed, most probably. Just going for the face. So we are not out of the woods yet by any means, but this arena, so far, her death does not scare him. He scares the Ogre, though. Indeed. The Ogre is very scared. Okay, so we've got some Frostbolt ability. I can Frostbolt for 4 with my Soot Spear. I like that. Let's see what the correct trading sequence would be. Well, I will lose this either way, so I could just do a direct straight-up trade here. I think that's worth going for. In fact, probably it's worth to start with just swinging with the Ogre for fun. Oh, that's perfect. I'm totally happy with that trade. Look how good a value this Ogre has been. He's done 8 damage to the hero and removed one of the dangerous minions by accident. Loving that. So let's throw that down, and then we'll get a random card into play, a Frostwolf Grunt. This is why there's so much fun to be had by killing your opponent to Deathlords. This is probably why I would encourage you, for sanity's sake, not to pick Deathlords unless you have a Death Wish. So, throwing one of these down, oh, I get the 1 chip damage as well, and I'm quite happy to sacrifice that. In comes a Shadow Boxer. Whenever a character is healed, do 1 damage to a random enemy. This is brilliant, because whenever a character is healed, that is whenever a character is healed. So if my opponent starts healing things, then I'm going to be doing chip damage with the Shadow Boxer. In comes a silence. What is going to get silenced? Nice. That's probably what I would have silenced too. Now trade. We've got that all of the arena down. But winter is going to be coming. Winter is coming. I've got the combo I want. Spear gives us the +1. We did not get the chip damage very sadly, but we can then frostbolt that away. And this arena deck, folks, I really like your work. Remember that if there's only one enemy on the field, then the Ogre Brute is only going to be attacking the hero. And this deck has been doing awesomely so far, touch wood. Loving that. Our opponent down to 9 health. Some nice solid picks. We did have a very nice set of picks, it has to be said, and we had a very nice draw. So this has pretty much gone the way that I think you folks probably wanted it to. Very, very nicely done. Here comes a coin for a 4-drop. Silvermoon Guardian, that is going to be a game. Lovely stuff. It would be rude. Let's just check the damage. We have 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to swing in. Oh! And very, very nicely done. I wanted to swing with the Ogre first. There we go, win number 1. So for the remnants of this episode, we will see how many games we can fit in. So our strategy roughly bore out there. We pick solid minions, we try to get some combos, and if we take a look, really, we did try and combo between the minions that we had previously, but we just picked solid stuff that we could play turn by turn. We've got a very, very heavy early game bias in an arena. That's generally not such a bad thing. It will be probably a bit harder, of course, luck of the draw pending, to do a very late game deck. Playing a druid, and of course remember there'll be all sorts of nasties potentially present, innovates and similar. Look at this hand. So we've got a Frostbolt, an Annoytron, a Golem, and an Enhancer Meccano. I'm going to throw back that Enhance though and hope that we get another early game card of some description. Should have kept it. A bit of a risk. Turn 4 is actually okay. A 4 mana card is not too awful with that rest of the picks we have in hand. Coining into a Frostbolt, coining into an Annoytron, perfectly possible turn 1 if we want. However, let's just hope that our opponent doesn't ramp anything out too nastily. Here comes a Spectronite. Okay, so I'm cool with that. We can always coin into a Harvest Golem or similar next go. Nothing down from our opponent. If our opponent armors up with Shapeshift and decides to attack for 1, then I'm feeling even happier about our chances. A Micro Machine, okay. Would be nice to remove that. I'm actually probably going to be happy just to Frostbolt that off the deck. Remember, we've got 4 Frostbolts. So next, and you can see, look at this nice little curve we've got. We can throw down a Harvest Golem into a Tinkertown Tech over the next 2 turns, and that will give us a nice solid core with which to build on. Turn 5, a Spectral Knight comes into play, and because our Druid can only shapeshift, that shows that we are going toe to toe at the moment. So, Harvest Golem, could have thrown down a Nitron, but I like the 2-for-1 ability of the Harvest Golem a little bit more, and that triggers unless our opponent can remove that. Our Tinkertown Tech's Battle Cry. This is going to be a 4-4 on turn 4, and it will give me a spare part that will hopefully help me do something useful. Down comes a Shredder. Well played. Nasty trades all over the show. Right, so could tank up against this. Probably just going to... I'm going to throw this down. TTT. A Rusty Horn, that gives me a little bit of a trade now. Do I Secret Keeper, or do I save a coin to throw down a Boulder Fist Ogre next go? If I coin into a Boulder Fist Ogre next go, that would be very nasty indeed. Our other option, of course, could have not played the Secret Keeper, perhaps gone and coined into a Fire Blast and then gone for that trade and removed those. So here I would imagine my opponent will trade away the Tinkertown Tech. Even pull. Nasty buff into a 5-4. It will still mean, of course, that the trade is there. Interesting. I'm going to try and split down my things a little bit more. For me, a straight up trade, unless there's a 2-mana option with a Shapeshift that can allow him to remove the damaged Golem. Slowly coming out ahead. Very nicely done. Must resist the temptation to enhance Omikane. There are so many other plays I could make here. I could play any of those big nasty cards that we were talking about. But why do that when you can do this? Oh, what do we get? Look at that. I like that much. Oh, we've got a Wind-Furying Spider as well. Okay, so nothing wrong with a little trade here. Keep that alive. Oh, that is nasty. I don't like that at all. But I can't remove it, of course. So I'm just going to have to do that one chip. And this is the little bit of a problem. You can see why shredders are so awesome. And down comes this Sunwalker. That's horrible. Look at that. And if I cannot remove that, and there's the Flame Strike. Next turn I'll be okay. But next turn is a turn away. A lot can happen in a turn. So how are we for the looks when it comes to trades? Can I punch through this? Yes. Will I lose some minions in the process? Yes. It'll be a 3 for 1, and then I will lose that into a 2. I can go for a complete trade, or I can try and hang on in a turn and then Flame Strike for some pain. Here's the question. I can significantly slow my opponent down if I wish. I'm gonna go for the removal, I think. Hello, hello, hello. So, what's the best order of doing this? Well, if I need to sacrifice this 4 anyway. I may as well move that. At least I've still got my mech up. That leaves me in a position of... I may as well use the Wind Fury before it dies. Can then jump on into that, and why not? Let's throw up another tank as well, Rusty Horn. So that puts us in a nice solid table position. We made the clear. I've still got the Flame Strike in hand, a Boulder Fist over and a Spectral. If we'd got those down earlier, it would have applied more pressure. Down goes a Claw Druid just to tank up. Probably going to see our Shapeshift unless there's something else in hand for our Druid. A bit of a slower game this one, but good. Testing out our game's mid to late game chops. And of course, if you folks hadn't picked more mid to late game cards, we would be struggling right now. So for that, we are thankful. We've got a fairly simple trade here. I'm actually going to go for a bit of Argent Commanding. Time for the spiders to perish, and then we can charge in a little bit. Note how long that Annoyatron has stuck to the table for. Doing nicely. So we still want to, these are our finishes really. We need to get out those cards ASAP, and I've been stalling for table control. Druids of course have things like Poison Seeds, lots of things that could wreck our nicely formed board. So I'd like to get these out and doing damage as soon as possible. Nice Engineer and the Worgen Infiltrator, we saw that ourselves. 5 mana left to go. Drawing cards, trying to fill the table. A Flame Strike could be very nice next go.
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
I think this is the most obvious Flame Strike candidate. In comes an Innovate. Oh, and what's that going to be? Another Enhance? So now, unless there's bubbles on top of those, we do have one that's bubbled. Okay, so I might consider bursting the bubble there. However, if we burst the bubble, we can't Flame Strike. Dilemmas. Oh, and we've got that tank as well. Right, so... I just think that Flame Strike is too tempting here. Lovely. Lovely. And I'm going to let that unstealth at his own pace. So if it does decide to fly on in, it will most probably trade against the Annoyatron because it will leave it alive. Still not been able to get down those Spectrals, but if I can throw down the Spectral and a Shredder, that should take me most of the way towards victory, I would hope. We're going to charge to face and throw down big threats. Down comes a Molten Giant. That is nasty. We've got one of those, of course. And the trade that we were expecting. So if I throw all of these down, we will do 7 damage next turn with 7 left to do. We can put 2 minions down that our opponent can trade at least one of. We're close, but no cigar. So is trading anything here a good option? Or is just filling the table with big nasty things a good option? I think I just want to double shredder. Heroes and a half shell. Turtle power! Unless there is a healing touch. Now what can opponent do? Can trade away a fair few of these, actually, it has to be said. If a poison seeds go down Starfall, nice, that's going to remove... Ooh, 2 to all. It's very nice indeed. 2 of those left. In come the trades, out come the little minions. Whirling's Up-O-Matic, that has to be removed, otherwise it will do 6 damage next turn. This will also have to be removed. Trades, trading in, out comes a shapeshift for that additional extra mana. We will probably see the giant. No, hero trades in and attacks with the giant. Nicely done. So we are close. In comes an ooze. Oh, the ooze has been traded. Now note that this isn't actually an auto win. If our opponent got a heal, we could be in quite a nasty position here. So what's it to be? I think that if we throw down the ogre, that almost forces the trade. The Spectral Knight doesn't quite force the trade. For that reason, I'm going to do that. And just so right, if you are going to trade, you are going to have to sacrifice everything, unless of course he pops enough other stuff here. That's not going to get rid of it on its own. May well have some spell power, spell damage. I'd like to say this was home and dry, but I've lost games from this position before. That's probably a reflection on my skill rather than the worry of random cards coming out of an arena person's hand. Wild Growth, that gives a free card draw. Well, 2 mana card draw, of course. We'll see excess mana pop out now for that additional card. Questing Adventurer hits the table with 5 mana. There we see the trade. I'm a lot happier that we've got that out of the way. Okay, that is a nasty table we're looking at there. So we are not done yet. Now I'm just going to keep throwing threats on the table, which my opponent will keep trading away. So really, I want minions on the deck. Now any of those will trade against any of those. Most likely he will have to sacrifice 2 or 3 to trade either way. So I'm just going to do 1 to face. See if we can punch through. We are close. We are so close. Can we just push this over the line? Nice. Venture Code Mercenary trades it up to a 4/4. Means that still needs to trade 3 minions for 2. And we see that trade. In comes a Whirling's Up-O-Matic. My goodness. Our opponent is having great fortune indeed. And in comes that final trade. And of course, no, because he could play the extra card, he's left himself on 1. So we could still lose this. Where are the Frostbolts? Says Lud. And I could not agree more. Now note that next turn our opponent can actually do... Oh, there's a Frostbolt. Our opponent can do 17. So do I freeze and then do a 1 and risk the kill next go? If our opponent can do 3 more next turn, then what do you reckon? Control or face? I'm going to slow up a little bit to give this decision to the stream. I've drawn a Frostbolt. Now what can I control? I can control the Zap-O-Matic. I can throw down the Stormwind Champ. I can Frostbolt into a similar. I can remove those 2, and then I still won't be able to throw down a Champ same turn. Do you fancy control or face? Now I can take away 10 damage there. That'll mean I'll survive for 2 turns more. Or I can do 4 damage to the face. He'll heal up another go, and actually I'd probably be... I don't think control, freeze the goblin, remove 1, freeze the goblin, but then I could double control, I could remove these 2, and then just leave the goblin. Well, the Stormwind Champ then threatens a lethal. Could double control with that. I am going to... This may be the wrong play. Might be the wrong play. Let's see how we go. I will die in 3 goes. And I didn't get my Stormwind Champ down. Maybe a mixed play would have been good. Here comes a Shapeshift and we'll die in 2. Unless this is a healing. Frost the Goblin and play the champion. Yeah, both kills us. Frost the Zap-O-Matic, in comes the... Okay, so... Right. There we go, went off with the trade. Can top himself up to 6. He can do a direct trade to keep himself in the match. Now I have the swing of lethal. Calls in the chat. Frost the Goblin play the champion. Yeah, I think that was probably the pressure. He could have then traded with the Welling Zap-O-Matic. I know he couldn't have done. He would have had to trade with both minions. In comes a Shapeshift. All depends on the cards in hand for opponent. Face, 4 damage left, Starfire, had the DPS. Maybe that would have given us the option. So that was a really good game. We at least had the chance of victory. So, final match. We are 1-1. This is a really nice strong deck. So, our final game for today. We may well continue this tomorrow or later in the week. And the good thing about that deck is we were never totally out of it. It felt as though that we were very ahead at one point, but we saw our Druid come back. We didn't quite have the finishes that we needed, and finally we can have the fun of a mirror match. Alrighty then. Of course we have no idea what our opponent has, and we look at the hand we've just drawn. We've just drawn a Mech-mage starting hand. Confirm. I am going to take that. I would buy that for $1. So our curve, Annoyatron into Tinkertown Tech. A Snow Chugger for our opponent, doesn't really throw anything on the table. And a Frostbolt as well. Next up. Here comes a coin, we're going to see a 2-drop on turn 1. Comes a Knife Juggler. Well, a little bit of a change of plan. I am perfectly happy to just Frostboltage. Remember, for those of you who weren't here for the draft, we have 4 Frostbolts and could have had 5. Could we have had more? I can't remember. I don't think so. I think we could have had 5 Frostbolts. In comes an Armani Berserker. It would have been nice to Frostbolt with that, for sure. So, if that attacks into something, he can ping it to get the additional attack. If I taunt into Divine Shield, then he can trade it off the table in 1 and still be enraged. Tinkertown Tech, the Snow Chugger would at least freeze it and allow me to remove it. The Harvest Golem would also allow a trade. I'm going to go with the Harvest Golem. It's a very, very nice option that if he doesn't manage to kill both, then I can still benefit with the Tinkertown Tech next turn, because of course the Damage Golem is still a mech. Ooh. Now note, these are cards that are just solid. Raging Worgen, that's enraged. He can shoot it himself and that will become a 4/2 minion. It can do 8 damage with that Worgen next go. I would quite like to get rid of it. So even if I throw the Tinkertown Tech down, I'm not going to be able to remove these nasty threats. And for that reason, I am inclined to do this. I'm going for a control play. Because our mage here is just waiting to Fire Blast either of these two. And that one's the more dangerous of the two, because it can start doing 8 damage if you look at that Worgen. Enrage, Wind Fury and +1 attack. 3/3 becomes 4/2. 4/2 with Wind Fury is 8 damage. Snow Chugger as well, and our opponent has drafted very nicely. We didn't see too many of these cards, I think, and this was the play we were anticipating early game. There comes the double buff. So that's now a 5/2 that I pretty much have to trade off the table. However, I can make a reply, going to the Tinkertown Tech with a Snow Chugger on the table. So I started first. We've managed to avoid the coin play. We are now, broadly speaking, just about ahead when it comes to table position. So, feeling good. For those of you who have missed a bit of Hearthstone recently, there's a Mech-mage deck since Goblin vs. Gnomes that is playing with a lot of these cards. We've been fortunate to grab. Philosophical question. The Worgen has such a thin waist. Do all of its organs fit in its chest? Let's have a look at that Worgen. He or it or she does indeed have a very thin waist. Or maybe it's just got a very big torso, very big shoulders. Maybe it's normal waist, big shoulders. Spectral Knight, and we can see our mage. This is as much of a mirror match as we were thinking. So I can no, I can't trade that away. Can't be targeted by spells or hero powers, but that's a minion ability. So that would allow me to trade that off the table. We could go for a Contra Snow Chugger freeze. We could just go for a Spectral Knight of our own and try and get some trades going. That could be quite enjoyable. I'm going to go for a Spectral Knight of our own for interest. Other options could have frozen this by attacking this with that. Would have meant that unless our opponent had a Frostbolt, could have kept this alive. So I have given a free swing with a Spectral Knight. I could have frozen that, sacrificed the Chugger, and then sacrificed this for a double trade, left myself with my Spectral Knight unharmed potentially, but it all depends what my opponent's got in hand. Less organs, more Worgans. Organs for organs sounds like an organ donation drive. Your Worgan related charity names. Send them on a postcard. And the Snow Chugger, while our opponent is contemplating their next play. Down comes the Harvest Golem. This is so mirror matchy, it's not even funny. Going to offer the trade, offering the Snow Chugger trade there. I'm happy with that actually, because I can just trade away my low damage Tinkertown Tech. Oh no, because I went in and made the attack. It removes the next attack. I always think it's a turn sometimes. A common error. So we can have a straight up trade there. Could go for Hearthstone Meccano for the funds, but we just have no idea what it would actually do. And in that lies half the fun itself. Who knows, I could start tanking everything up. Must resist temptation. Must resist. Too late. What have we got? Come on. Oh, we bubbled. Bubbled and tanked. That was a result indeed. Now because that attacked... no, I attacked that, didn't I? So that's going to remind me. Tinkertown Tech killed a Snow Chugger. I froze that. I froze that. He's already had his next go. He's frozen his own Spectral Knight, of course. So that's going to be frozen for one more turn. I don't actually have to trade that off the table this turn. Time Rewinder. I could pick it up and throw it back down again. Could be interesting. Could zap something for one. I'm going to Ice Barrier. Now, why am I going in and charging that? Well, because he attacked, remember, or they attacked, my opponent attacked. The Spectral Knight, like my Tinkertown Tech, stays frozen for another go. Because I got that bubble. If I hadn't had that bubble and the freeze, I would have probably lost it. So I can trade those, do a nice beneficial trade there next go. And if I'd just trade that away with this, we would have lost my Spectral Knight to the Harvest Golem. Alrighty then, so we can see that trade coming in. We've got that chip down, 2 loot hoarders, meaning there's going to be a whole bunch of card draw. But we're in the nice position now of being able to Argent Commander and make a nice trade. So I'm not going to sacrifice those. I can do a bunch of damage to the face. That is the first option. Let's get rid of that. Now he can punch through next turn, sacrifice and draw cards. Do I want to give them the luxury of drawing cards? Probably not. So options. I can actually even Time Rewinder and throw this down again next turn if I want. So that'd be quite fun. As is, I am going to remove one more of those. Let's do 3 to the face for some damage. Lovely stuff. So we're in a nice position. Nice position here, I feel. Okay, and in comes a swinging Ice Barrier gaining. We saw the Flame Strike. Our opponent doing a nice counter draft, and actually, in fact, just hitting us for 2. So this game ain't over just yet. In comes a huge gun. Could even time rewinder that. Could do this. Could do that. Had to feed him the couple of cards, but freezing, removing minions off the table. We've got Stormpipe Commando. Here comes a Senjin Shield Master. And again, look, we were in a very nice strong position. Can we do something nuts with this? We can pick it up and throw it down just the once. We can pick it up and throw it down again. Let's do the maths. Come on. Reason for that 1 to this Azure Drake is if they decide to trade with either of them. And then that's a full table trade. Okay folks, to close out our last game, are we going to be able to pull a win out of the bag with a polymorph? It's not looking likely. In comes that 3 trade, removing that to mirror image, pulls out 2 minions with taunt, and again we find ourselves in the position without fireballs of needing lots of frostbolts to win. Now I say that we've got a nice solid deck, but we've come across some really solid decks as well this evening. Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. In comes a flame strike. Loving a bit of that. Ooh, Arcane Nullifier, nasty. That is a horrible tank. This is going to be really hard for us to come back from, unless we just keep top decking. Oh, our saviour from game 1. Ethereal Arcanists. If you control a secret game 1/1, I'm going to pick something that I can potentially remove from the table with my 1 damage chip. In comes a zombie chow, and look at how our opponents just stacked the board. Now, we do have another flame strike, we do have a molten giant, can't even play it. Ooh, I dislike this immensely. We could keep chipping away at that to get a heal. I think let's remove a DPS threat. Actually, one could argue the better move for me is to keep throwing damage at the base. It's all ogre. Come on, hope for flame strike. Need to draft more wisps, says Noodle in chat. I fully agree. A wisp would have made this a lot easier. A wisp would have been the key to getting past the Arcane Nullifier. Another thing as well, it's never bad to have an occasional silence in your arena if you can. I can drop a Molten Giant, but really my opponent's just going to trade to face. Now, I'm not entirely sure why my opponent's waiting here. Unless just to demoralise me by throwing down that Defender of Argus. On the bright side we have a free Molten Giant. And from an amazing first game, we've had some very, very good arena games. So I think... oh, hang on. Guys, look at this. Look at this. Oh, and we get the heal as well. Oh, get the heal as well. Get the heal as well. Top deck the flame strike. Oh. That is satisfying. In comes the secret, one to the face. We will have to see what this is. Now the real question is the mage secret. That could still totally rain on our parade. And let's see the mage secret. See the mage secret. Duplicate, gets 2 nullifiers back into the hand. I told you that mage secret could ruin our day. Oh no. Okay, well remember we're going to have to punch through 2 of those 2/5s. Now we can do it with our giant and keep chipping away. This is where did I fire blast enough to the face? And we need some of those 4 frost bolts. In comes a goblin blast mage. Oh my goodness, and that is of course on top of a mech, down to 6. He's got lethal next turn. Unless I can kill the blast mage, and I cannot kill the arcane nullifier unless I use the molten giant. Oh my goodness. Talk about the time to top deck a blast mage. And by the way, if you know, in terms of an amazing arena deck, look at this mage we're playing against. A really, really good deck.
Hello.
I'm not entirely sure why my opponent is waiting here.
Runs out on me.
Okay, so we've got a frostbolt. Can we do this, folks? I think yes, with the frostbolt we now can. Do I just face here? No, I'm going to go hyper cautious.
That minion already attacked.
I think that's it. Unless our opponent can control the giant on this turn, then we got a game. So, that was close. Oh, sorry. Sorry, the second nullifier. I totally forgot about the second nullifier. There goes a mad scientist. We are not done yet. Firebolt to the face. Removing one of those very nicely done means I cannot remove the secret keeper there. Storming champion. Other minions have 1/1. Nice. Okay. I'll throw that down. Let's make the trade. Let's throw those down. Come on, come on, come on. I'm looking for a sound effect to celebrate the end of this game. It may or may not be too loud. Let's see how we go. Return the giant, return the molten to heal it. It's a good call. Swing into the nullifier with giant and return it. Another good shout. We've got the damage to do. So I'm not going to oh, there's the trade. Grabs his secret. In comes a fire blast, removes. And goes a soot spewer. So the real question is, what is this secret? Come on!
Runs out on me.
In before Pyro. Come on. Final game.
Hello.
So the question is the secret. So the first thing I do is probably tap to the face for 2. There we go. Lovely stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Managed to get there in the end. And that was our Arena Tuesday. We picked a very fun mage deck. You picked a pretty big early to mid-game mana curve. We had some awesome mech synergy. We played some Mech-mage there. Managed to bring ourselves out 2-1. So good fun. So thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. Usual places. Twitch.tv/FailCraftCasts, YouTube.com/FailCraftCasts, and at FailCraftCasts on Twitter. If you're live, don't go away. We might silent stream a few more games, or perhaps with some music. If you are on YouTube, hopefully see you soon. Take it easy.